Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Hoang podcast experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up, my G.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, how in the world are you? Welcome to another episode of the Hoang podcast experience, coming at you live all the way over in the Asian Sensation Studios in our beta room, which is located over in the Washington DC Metropolitan Area. It's a very good day today. I'm just kind of hanging out, chilling, and it's been a good day, and it's been a good couple of moments. A while ago I was actually over in the Wasabi Studios over in Lansdowne, Maryland, not far from Baltimore, and honestly it was great. I loved it. I have to give special thanks to my friends and the owners of the Wasabi Studios in Kimo and Dana. I definitely love those guys. They are great friends, awesome people, very hospitable when it comes to just, welcoming me into their facility. And they're just like, yeah, whatever you need, man, just go right ahead. We're here. We support everything that you do with this podcast. And, we don't know much about it other than the fact that you're actually in it and you're involved in it. So we give you our love and support. And to me, that is amazing. Just to hear that is awesome. So to Kimo and Dana, guys, I love you both. Much love and respect, and thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done for me and just supporting me, as a whole. Years of friendship. It just goes to show you that, how much love and respect that we have for one another, and I cannot thank you enough. So, we are here in the studio, back at it, in the booth, speaking in the microphone, and, I have to say before we begin, our new system of recording is absolutely amazing. Not to say that the old way of how I recorded wasn't bad, but, just to actually do it this way, it feels a little bit more like it's, in a professional setting. And I feel like, there's a lot more that comes out of it this time. Like, I feel like it's the better quality. So I feel good knowing that I'm investing very well in what I need in order to make a good podcast and have the presentation sound, like it should. That just goes to show you that I'm really in it for the long haul. It's not like a short-term goal. It's something that I really want to be dedicated to. You know what I mean? I really want to do this and make this shine. So if that's anything, man, there you go. That just goes to show you that I'm in it to win it. So today we're really going to be doing an awesome episode. Earlier today I got a chance to talk to Hector, and I told him all about what I was going to do. He was very supportive about it, and without any further delay, we will get into it. The whole episode is basically going to be involved with some philosophies and some theories that are coming from a martial arts sense. Now, I know what you're thinking, because a lot of people talk about it all the time. Like, Kim, you always refer to the martial arts. Well, yes, because it is something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I've trained in for a very long time. Being a third-degree black belt in that Muay Thai style of Taekwondo has given me the confidence to do so. This, to me, I feel comfortable. It's in the wheelhouse, and I love it. Now, obviously, when you hear what I'm going to talk about, and the fact that it's like, deals with martial arts and there's some philosophies into it, a lot of people just think right then and there, well, it's just only about martial arts, and that is not necessarily 100% true. Because if you think outside of the box, what I'm going to be talking about today in this episode on both segments can be applicable for things outside of the martial arts in regular everyday life. It's just that you would have to take a different approach and you have to think of it in a different way, but it applies to everything that we do. So, don't feel bad about it. I feel like there is a way that people can use it, whether if you are involved in the martial arts or not. And I feel like it's a good thing. And, and if I didn't feel good about it, I really wouldn't talk about it, or I wouldn't have the courage to talk about it on my podcast show. You know what I mean? So, that's where it is. And the first segment, or the opening segment, either way, whatever you want to call it, is that I want to talk about that it's okay to ask for help. Basically, it boils down to this. As a person that trains in the martial arts, whether if you are a student or, if you are an instructor, and I'll even go far as saying, if you are ranked and you are a color belt, which is a non-black belt, or if you are a black belt, if there's something that you don't know, then, you gotta do what you can in order to understand and know the information from A to Z, top to bottom, 360 degrees all the way around. But sometimes in the martial arts setting, when that particular student does not know certain information, they may try to hide that fact just to save face, so they don't have to deal with, the potential humiliation and embarrassment. You know what I mean? Because if you don't know the information, we feel really shameful, right? It's like, man, I'm really messing up here because I'm supposed to know it and I don't know. However, that way of thinking, is wrong. And the student shouldn't feel embarrassed for not knowing the material that they need to know. Now, the main question is how do you fix that? Well, the best way is to ask your, black belt instructor, or, the senior black belt, or, the master, grandmaster. You ask them for assistance, for the help. Why? 2 reasons. Number 1, because they are there to make sure that you learn everything that you need to know so that you can reach your full potential and that you actually know what you need to know in order to get to the next level. Number 2, and I think this is also important, is that you don't fall behind on your training. Because let's say, for example, you just earned your green belt in karate, you know what I mean? And other people earned green belt too at the same time. Now you start training at the same time with, what you need to learn for the next belt. Some people actually may train and get it, and they're starting to really click with that information, while you are struggling a little bit because maybe there's something that you don't understand. And it's easily to that point sometimes where if you get frustrated so much with a little bit of information that you don't know that you're supposed to know with that material, it can get frustrating. And that's when we start to doubt ourselves and we start thinking negatively. And we just get so frustrated that at that point, do I dare even say we stop trying? You know what I mean? It is not embarrassing to admit that you need help and to ask somebody, like an instructor, one of the senior black belts who is a master or a grandmaster or whatever. Hey, I need help because I don't understand what's going on. And let me give you an example because this is a true story. And I'm that type of person that I'm okay to admit this happened years ago, so it doesn't bother me now. But not so far out after I earned my yellow belt in Taekwondo, I started training and I started learning my new material of what I need to know for my green belt test. You know what I mean? So I'm learning stuff and whatnot, and I'm learning this one yellow belt form. Now, I took it bit by bit, and I started to just kind of piece the things together, but there were certain things that I was missing because I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. First part of the form is like, kind of like the other forms that I've learned. So it was kind of easy. But then when I started to progress down the latter part of the form, it's when I kind of got a little bit confused and so forth. So one day I was called in the middle of the class. It was like the class was almost over, and sometimes we are called to actually do a demonstration of what we know. So they called me up. I was doing this one white belt form, not a problem. I did it because I knew it, and obviously I was tested on it. So yeah, I was very comfortable in doing that form, no problem. Now they want me to do the one yellow belt form, and I was like, uh-oh. So I did it. And I might have gotten the first 6 or 7 moves, but after that, I froze. And I was just like, uh-oh. And the instructor kind of knew what was going on because the instructor, I've seen this type of situation before many a times. Nothing gets past them. And he's like, Kim, what happened? Sir, I'm freezing because I don't know the rest of the form. So, you don't know the form then? I know a little bit. That's not what I asked. I said, do you know the entire form? No, sir. Okay, no problem. Just sit down and just, have a seat. And I'm watching the other fellow yellow belts doing it, and I'm just feeling a little bit embarrassed. Now, some of those yellow belts, they've been yellow belts for quite a while. They're already in the next month going to be testing for their green belt. So they knew this stuff. They knew what was going on, and they knew the form very well. Some of the other yellow belts that were new when they just got their yellow belt like I did already knew it because they put in a lot of time and effort to train and to understand it. So after class, I talked to that instructor, and the one thing that they said was, Kim, if you didn't know the form, you should have asked for help, and it's okay. Don't feel embarrassed. I'd rather you admit that you don't know it so that we can prepare you a lot better to get ready to know what you need to know, for you to learn everything and to learn it, in a way that, it clicks for you. And then next thing you know, it's just going to be automatic. And I felt pretty good about it. But at first, initially, I felt bad to admit that I didn't know it. But I think over time, and the way that the black belt instructors, how they phrased it and how they talked to me, they made me feel like, it was okay. And that, making mistakes and not knowing the material was not the end of the world. But the most important part was just to get me back on track so I know what I needed to know. And especially when it came to the next test, I would be prepared. I would be ready. It's like a computer program, Once it's installed in your mainframe, all you need to do is double click, triple click on that program that's already on an icon, and it'll pop up and it'll open and it'll do what it needs to do. And that's where I wanted to be. That's where I really needed to be. And I felt so good after that. You know what I mean? I felt like, okay, from that point, it was okay for me to ask for help if I didn't know anything. And I still ask for help all the time for certain things. Like even at a black belt level, when I'm learning a new black belt form, I don't know it, and I'm going to need as much as help as possible. So I ask all of my fellow black belts who may know that material how, this is done and how to do it. And sometimes I even consult with my grandmaster, and that he can, give his 2 cents on how it should be done, at least from, his eyes and his vision. So that way I know for sure, this is how you want me to do it. Cool. You shouldn't feel embarrassed for not knowing what you don't know. And it's okay. I'd rather, as an instructor, if somebody tells me that they don't know, I'd rather for them to tell me that rather than just, ignoring it. Because if you ignore it and I ask you if you know it and you're like, don't say much, I can only assume as an instructor, like, okay, that student had acknowledged that, in some degree that they know it and it's going to be fine. And to only find out that they don't know it, I feel like now that right there was a mistake. Just fess up and say that you don't know. It's okay. We're not here to embarrass you. The instructors and everybody in the martial arts school, we want to see you succeed. Everybody wants to see you succeed. It is not a competition. We're all here as a family wanting to help each other out and be supportive in the best way we can. And if you ask for help, guaranteed that you'll get it. It may take some time to, get everything right and for you to understand the material and to get it down to a T. But once you do, and once we actually go over it and make sure that you're good, it's smooth as silk, man. It's going to be awesome. That being said, though, we are going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to come back. We're going to go into another segment. We will touch a little bit more on this first segment for sure, because it will be integrated a little bit with the second segment. Just go ahead and do your thing, take a break, come right back, because the Kim Hoang podcast experience will be coming back, and we got a lot going on, so you don't want to miss out. So stay tuned, guys, because the Kim Hoang podcast experience, we're live, we're cooking, we're in effect, and, we're glad to be here, and we don't want to go anywhere other than the fact that we want to be here with all of y'all. We'll see you in a bit. Ever wanted to make a podcast but didn't know how to do it or where to go? Does the idea of pursuing podcasting sounds great, but you're afraid of the expenses that you have to invest in? Then look no further than Spotify for Podcasters. They have the tools that you need to create the perfect podcast episode that you want, whether if you want to create it in an audio and or video podcasting form. To those that already podcast, Spotify for Podcasters can help you upload your already completed audio/video podcasts to all of the podcasting platforms that you have a membership to. And the best part is that this is 100% free. No hidden costs, no monthly fees, because you don't have to give them your credit card information, and because Spotify for Podcasters want to help by giving back to everybody. So check them out at podcasters.spotify.com and download their app for free on the Google Play Store and or the Apple App Store. Spotify for Podcasters.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang podcast experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Kim Hoang podcast experience. Glad that you are back with us and you have returned. I hope that you guys enjoyed your break as much as we did. And, this right now, as we speak, this one for the next segment is a very challenging one. And I really thought about this one because I felt like it was something that needed to be said, and something for not only for non-martial artists to understand, but all martial artists should understand. Now, especially to the ones that hold a black belt rank or a black belt position or equivalency, this is going to be specifically up your alley. This is going to be seriously for you guys. And that is to know what your black belt responsibilities are. Now, a lot of people that may not train in the martial arts, they probably go, wow, the black belts have responsibilities. We never knew that. Oh, yeah, of course. It's to some, it's an unsaid rule. To some, it's a rule that has always been known for many, many years. But we just never really mentioned it until you reach that position, until you reach that rank of being a black belt. So there's a lot that goes on with it. I mean, it's not one of those things where that you're a black belt and you call all the shots and do you do whatever you want to do. That's not exactly how that works. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a snippet of what black belt responsibilities is all about, like what a black belt should have as their responsibilities. Now, I know there's a lot of websites that talk about this and so forth, and they list a good amount of qualities of what responsibilities a black belt should have, and I don't disqualify it. I really don't. I think they're all good. But if I was to just go ahead and simplify it and just kind of give you guys a Reader's Digest version, just by giving you like maybe what I thought was important, then that way you guys understand a little bit of the situation. And for all the black belts out here, it would serve as a good reminder, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm supposed to, do. This is what I'm responsible for, And, this, again, for all the black belts and all the black belt equivalency ranked, martial artists, this one's for you guys. So let me just go ahead and try to explain everything bit by bit. I found 4 good ones, or I should say, things that I've condensed into 4 main things. Now, obviously, when you hear it, there's probably going to be a lot of discussion like, oh, this person, he forgot this or he forgot that. I just picked what I thought was a good thing. You know what I mean? And I'm just going to go for it in no consequential order. Here we go. Black belt responsibilities, which I think are the most important. Number 1 is to be a role model, being a good role model. A black belt should always uphold the values and, recognize the tenets of the martial arts, which those tenets are courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. Now, if you don't know what all of those are, I do have a little bit of a definition. Courtesy. Courtesy is the way that you treat others in class with respect, including all instructors and fellow students. You know what I mean? Courtesy goes both ways. If somebody shows you love, you show love back to them. Simple as that. Integrity. This tenet is about ethics and morals, demonstrating good character. It involves having a good conscience and knowing the difference between right and wrong. So basically, the key word in this particular tenet is ethics and morals. You know what I mean? Knowing the difference between what to do and what not to do. When you have that type of integrity, that, type of attitude, it goes a long way. Perseverance. This value is gained by developing both physical and mental strength, which is exactly right. Getting physically fit and also at the same time developing, mental understanding and mental strength and mental power. Both are very needed in this type of situation, and one can't function without the other. So there you go. Perseverance. Self-control. That should be self-explanatory, but it emphasizes the importance of discipline and restraint in actions and emotion. When to use your knowledge, of self-defense versus when not to. Indomitable spirit. This is kind of like a guide for all students and instructors, the way of the warrior, having that positive attitude and that, and, the way of, recognizing that you should never give up. You should always do your best. You know what I mean? The word can't is not even in the dictionary. You know what I mean? And never, not to be very dramatic, but it's kind of like the right way of saying the never say die attitude, the way of the warrior. And that's what indomitable spirit is. So that all falls into the guidelines of, being a role model, understanding the values and the tenets of the martial arts and just living that way. Number 2, being a mentor. Black belts should always interact with other students to encourage and advise them not only in the martial arts, but also outside of it. To lead by example and to always show that example. Can't be further from the truth. You know what I mean? When students look up to the black belts, students look up to the black belts like, they have the superpower and they know everything, which is very flattering. But also at the same time, black belts are still students as well. They should always be the exemplary model of what all martial artists should be like. And also, they need to be a little bit more interactive and try to be, the person that they can look up to be the advisor in their lives, and that's important to have. Not many people in the world already are not mentors, but being around a mentor makes you well aware of like what is going on in life, and just to give you a little bit of a guideline of where to go in life. Number 3, and this one is important, it's being a leader. A black belt should learn and know how to influence, motivate, and get along with others. They also know how to teach the materials to all the students of all genders, age, and etc., which is very, very accurate. Being a leader means that, you're not a follower, that you're showing them the way. And you're showing them on how to be a martial artist and what to do. This also includes the fact that being a leader, you need to know also in the terms of teaching, you need to know how to get with the student and learn how to ask and, pop those questions of like, hey, do you know your material? Which goes back to the last segment of it's okay to ask for help. The leader is always going to ask the students, if they need if they need anything, if they need assistance in anything, that sort of thing. They also say positive words. They encourage them. They let them know that, you're there for a purpose and you're doing a good job. You just have to remember to take everything step by step, day by day. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built, several days later. But it took a real good team to get them there. And what better team to actually lead them, to show them the way, than to actually have that leader, And being a leader is important because, when you're a black belt now, you're no longer, a student. You're actually helping to instruct. You're a leader. And when you lead the students, they follow your example of how they're being led and the knowledge that's being dropped to them. It's very important. Very important. Last but not least, and I think that's very important, is being an individual of peace. A black belt should always be a person of peace and advocate that it's the first line of defense, which is very true. When we learn the martial arts, we're always taught, and very true, this statement is, that the martial arts is for self-defense only. You know what I mean? You should always use it in a positive manner, Never be abusive or offensive with the stuff that you're taught. If there's a situation where you can avoid a fight at all costs by any means, whether if it's just trying to, offer your hand and shake their hand, or just trying to apologize or whatever, that's the first line of defense. Because the best way to win a fight is to not even have, that fight happen. Don't even be there. You know what I mean? You should always advocate that, fighting is never the way. Now, if it's to a situation where your student is backed up to a corner and they have nothing else to do, that the peaceful side isn't working out, then by all means, yes, advocate to defend yourself and to make sure that you're getting out of harm's way. But as martial artists, we should always advocate for peace. And that's very important for a black belt, is to remind the students, what? Martial arts is for defense only. Use it if necessary. Use it for, the right reasons. Like if you're getting bullied and your back is towards the wall and you got no other choice, fine. Use it to help defend those that are weaker than you are. If you have the ability to stand up for them, you should. Helping out your family, defending your family honor. If your family's in trouble and they're getting hurt, yes, use your martial arts knowledge for that. You know what I mean? It's very important that we try to do things the right way and to actually make sure that us as black belts, we are leading by example. We are teaching the way. We are extending our hands out. There are a lot of other black belts out there, and I'm not saying that every single one of them, but there are a few out there in the world that unfortunately don't adhere to those guidelines. They don't understand about the responsibility, and they just kind of do things their own way. Now, I know that they say that there is no right or wrong way in the black belt process, but this, in my opinion, I feel like you kind of need to, put your foot down when it comes to this type of stuff, because if you don't adhere to the responsibilities, understand the responsibilities, and live up to those responsibilities, then the next generation that you teach will not have a very good future in terms of being model citizens of the world. Because black belts should be the model citizens of the world. But we live and breathe being a martial artist each and every day. And we take everything that we learn from martial arts, all the philosophies, all the tenets, everything that we learn, from top to bottom, A to Z, point A to point Z, from one stop to another. We apply that, and we should, because we live that way. We live the martial arts way. It's not only our passion, but it's our way of life. It's helped us to become better people. It's helped us to be people that can be safe from all types of situations. And I believe it's the way to go. If you live the martial arts way, and especially for all the black belts out there, if you take the challenge and embrace the black belt responsibilities, not only do you give the next generation a very good chance of making it, but you feel good knowing that you're giving back, just like how the black belts before you gave to you. You know what I mean? Think about it. Each one teach one. You know what I mean? How they taught to you, you should teach it to the next generation. You know what I mean? Black belts, at this point, you should know what to do. And you should understand the situations of what it means to be that role model, to be that influence, to be that leader. You know what I mean? It's very important, very important. And I just want to throw that challenge out there to all the black belts and black belt equivalents to live that way. and to, understand the responsibilities that, your rank and your position holds, and to display that for everybody so they know, okay, this kind, this way of thinking, this way of training, this way of, how to approach things on an everyday basis, this mentality, this attitude, this way of life is good, and it's not doing him wrong or not doing her wrong. And if it's proven, which we're seeing it, then maybe we should apply that too. For sure. For sure. Man, that was a hard one. But I hope that, many of black belts out there, if you're listening to this portion of our podcast, that you are influenced by this in some good way. Or for somebody that is not a martial artist, you know what I mean, never took a lesson in their life, doesn't hold any rank, could take something very positive from this situation here that I'm dropping, this knowledge, and go, you know what? I could probably apply this to my everyday life, even though I'm not a martial artist. That I can kind of redirect it in a way that, maybe I can be a leader, just not in a martial arts way. Maybe I can be an individual of peace. Maybe I can be a mentor or being a role model. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said before in the first segment, before we started it, that there's going to be a lot of martial arts philosophies and references, but the stuff that I talk about can be applied to regular everyday life. That's a fact. That's a fact. That being said, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break. When we come back, my favorite portion of the Kim Hoang podcast experience, the Q&A session. I'm really excited about this one. I don't know what's going to happen, folks, but I know it's going to be amazing, and I know it's going to be hot. So stay tuned, guys, because we're coming right back with more great content here on the Kim Hoang podcast experience. In life, we all want to have great health and excellent physical fitness. However, it's never given, only earned. That said, if you want to go to a gym that will help you to get there, then look no further than Kicked Up Fitness at National Business Parkway in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Their mission at Kicked Up is to provide the ultimate functioning training facility that focuses solely on your success, with a diverse team that's highly qualified and dedicated to taking your fitness goals to the next level. Kicked Up also offers a variety of group classes and personal training programs that provide something for everyone, regardless of your fitness level. They believe in working hard, achieving results, all while having fun. So come visit their facility in person, which is located at 114 National Business Parkway, Suite 100 in Annapolis Junction, Maryland, 20701. Now, if you see my friend Sean Queen, who's the owner of Kicked Up, tell him that Benny Chow of Miscalculated sent you, and he'll hook you up with a complimentary 7-day pass just to try it out. Need more info? Give him a call. 410-888-9066. Email them at kufitnessnbp@gmail.com or visit them at their website at www.kufitnessnbp.com. Kicked Up Fitness. Never given, only earned.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang podcast experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome back to the Kim Hoang podcast experience. We just got back from a little bit of a good break, and this whole episode was really cool, and it was fun. Lots of fun and lots of laughs and all that good jazz and a bag of chips. But now, we are now about to do the greatest segment of the Kim Hoang podcast experience, the Q&A, the question and answer form. And I'm really excited about it because we have picked 7 questions at random. Hector, did the honors. And I thought about it and I was like, wow, it's really interesting when you pick the questions, because most of the time I don't even know what kind of questions are going to be presented my way. And I think that's the real cool part. That's the challenge for me, because it could be anything and everything, and I have to prepare in that kind of sense. Like, I have to have that mentality that, there could be any kind of question that you're going to throw at me. And I have to be prepared. I have to know that. And I have to be good about it. And I have to really think on the fly and just kind of make it happen. The one thing I'm very appreciative of is that we don't answer a lot of questions when it comes to politics and or religion. We just don't. So the fact that when you guys actually send the questions and they are not of those subject matters, number one, I am forever grateful for that. I'm forever grateful. And number two, it just makes our podcast job that much easier, and it makes Hector's life a little bit easier. He doesn't have to worry about, I'm going to pick this question and it might be something that Kim may not like, We've been very, fortunate in that respect, and we can't thank you enough for that. So we're going to attack the questions. We're going to go ahead and do it. I'm excited. The Q&A form is about to get going. It's about to get popping and jumping off. And let's just go ahead and go for it. Here we go. So in no particular order, now we begin the Kim Hoang podcast experiences, Q&A session. So I'm excited. Question number 1. Kim, I have a friend of mine that is very upset, and I am afraid to say that they are possibly jealous because I have a new friend that I just met, and I am dividing my time between the new friend and her. What do you think about this, and what are your opinions? Leslie from Randallstown, Maryland. All right. Leslie, it's one of those things where, like, at least in my opinion, you can be friends with whoever that you want to, and you can divide your time in any which way that you would like. I don't think that you're picking one over the other. I just think that, you're kind of splitting your time between friend A and friend B. And I don't think that there's a problem with that. At least in my opinion, that there's no problem with that. And, it does sound a little bit that, your friend in question, the one who's angry with you, is a little bit disturbed. Now, I don't know what the reasons of her being disturbed, but, I don't think that she should be really mad if there's nothing going on, or, if this friend doesn't pose a threat against her. You know what I mean? This is something that has happened before in my lifetime that I know about. And I'm going to use aliases on this one because I don't want to, drop the true identity. I have a friend of mine. Her name is Liz. And she is actually good friends with our friend Casey. Now, the problem is that Liz's friend Tori, who she knew, Liz and Tori went to the same high school. They graduated in the same class and stuff like that. It was all about Liz and Tori, and they were always good friends. And then when Casey got into the scene, Liz and Casey started hanging out a lot, you know what I mean? And they started to become good friends. Well, Tori didn't really appreciate that because she felt like, well, it's, always been you and I. And, ever since Casey got into the mix, things got really messed up. And I'm not liking that. I think that you really should stop that. And we should go back to the way that it was. And I guess Tori kind of put out an ultimatum where it was like, Liz, you either stop your friendship with Casey or you stop your friendship with me. And I felt like that was unfortunate because, Liz is a good girl. And, because of that, and because of that ultimatum, Liz had no choice. She was just like, look, you're going to have to accept things the way that it is. And if you're going to give me an ultimatum, then I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to end this friendship. And unfortunately, that's where that resulted, that Liz ended the friendship and relationship with Tori. And to this day, Liz and Casey are friends. They're best of friends. I'm hoping that this situation will not happen to you. You know what I mean, Leslie? Because, you have one friend that you've probably been friends with for a long time, and you guys have a great relationship. And you just recently met this new friend, and for probably good reasons. You guys probably have like a lot in common, and you guys just kick it and have fun. And all of a sudden, your one friend is feeling like, she's losing steam because you're also hanging out with this new friend. In my opinion, I think it's ridiculous to do that. I think that you should be able to hang out with whoever you want. Matter of fact, I think it would be in a better situation that you would be accepting and just allow, you to hang out not only with her, but your new friend as well. You know what I mean? I think there's always room for everybody. And that's the way that I see it. That's the bottom line. So if that's anything, I just hope that it works out between you and your longtime friend. And if it doesn't, I just want to put on record that you didn't do anything wrong, Leslie. You didn't. You're just a person living your life, trying to build relationships and trying to have as much friendships as possible. And I respect that. I understand it. More power to you. So it's all good. Question number 2, Kim, when you create your podcasts and you make mistakes, what do you think at that point? Are you upset with yourself? Reed from Buffalo, New York. Reed, yeah, I'll say this. When I do make podcasts, and so forth, I always hope for the best, and I always put myself in a high standard, you know what I mean? Yes, I'm going to make mistakes, and yes, sometimes it does happen while I make recordings right then and there. I do get a little bit upset with myself at that point for sure, but I feel like if I stop there, it's pretty obvious that I'm upset, and I know that I made a mistake, and everybody knows. But the way that I see it is that if I make a mistake, it's okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world. And the best thing that you can do is just, keep going. Keep going and just keep on creating and keep on doing what you do on your podcast. And the same thing, that I have to remind myself is that if I make a mistake, it's a mistake. You can, kick yourself in the shins for it. But you know what? Just keep it moving and keep it going. 9 times out of 10, I think that people are trying to pay attention to what you're trying to do and not focus on so much of the errors that you made. So the good ones will always pay attention to what you're trying to do rather than what you did. If they only just kind of analyze the mistakes that you were doing and not concentrate on the rest of the stuff, then it'd be pretty messed up. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I have to say. Question number 3. Kim, do you think that LeBron James will retire from the NBA real soon? Edward from Houston, Texas. That's a good question, Edward, and I think that LeBron James will probably retire soon. I'd probably give it within 2 years, maybe 3 at the most if we're lucky. You know what I mean? Because LeBron James has been playing in the NBA for about 20 years. He's played with Cleveland Cavaliers, the Miami Heat, and the Los Angeles Lakers. He's definitely put in a lot of time and won a lot of championships. And being that he played in the NBA since he was like really young, straight out of high school, and he's as old as he is now, playing for 20 years, I don't think that there's really much that he needs to do anymore. There's nothing much more that he needs to prove. There are basketball players that have a great career and never won an NBA championship, you know what I mean? And the fact that he won, plenty, in his career, I just think it's time for him to hang it up. You got nothing more to prove. I mean, yes, you just recently found out that your son, Bronny James, got picked by the LA Lakers, and you guys will now make history being that the only father and son duo to ever play in the same season of the NBA, let alone play together for the same team. There's nothing much more you need to do, man. I mean, you pretty much done everything that you can do within 20 years of the NBA, achieving the accolades that you did. It's amazing, but I think it is time to kind of hang it up. So that's my feeling on it. Question number 4. When you talk about the martial arts on your podcast show, do you think people are tuning in? If so, who do you think is listening? Linda from Oakland, California. Linda, I truly believe that there's going to be a lot of people that will pay attention to my podcast as a general statement, you know what I mean? And the fact that I do talk about the martial arts in my podcast as like a part of it, in certain aspects and in certain episodes, I only do that because I feel very comfortable in doing that. Being a martial artist for so many years and training in the martial arts since I was really young, and being a 3rd degree black belt in the Muay Thai style of Taekwondo, I feel like, people might be tuning in because they're either fellow martial artists that have an interest in what you have to say and your opinions, and there might be people that are not martial artists, but they're martial arts enthusiasts, and they would love to listen to what you have to say. And I think that's great. I think it's great because I feel like me being a martial artist that I am and holding the position that I have, I kind of can give a little bit of information of what I know, and I can be used as like a little bit of a reference guide, and it's amazing. Who would pay attention? Either, once again, my fellow martial artists that knows as much as I do, or the non-martial artist that knows less than I do. I mean, either way, I feel very happy and I feel very proud to talk about things that are martial arts because it's something that I do. It's a part of my lifestyle, and I'm passionate about it. And if you're passionate about something in general and you want to talk about it, I feel like it's a plus. It's a huge plus, and it's one of those things that people can't take it away from you because if you have such a knowledge for it and a love for it, it shows. And people would rather just, listen to what you have to say in terms of like, your passions rather than you trying to talk about something that, is interesting and nothing about. So, if that's anything, guys, that's that. Okay, question number 5. Kim, if you had a choice to pick between the 2 television series of Young Sheldon versus The Big Bang Theory, which one would you pick as your favorite and why? Samuel from Beaverton, Oregon. Oh, Lord, wow. You're really digging the blade in deep into my soul, brother. You really are. Samuel, why, man? Why? I love both Young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory. Obviously, it revolves around the character Sheldon Cooper. But if I had to pick one, I probably would pick Young Sheldon. And the reason why I pick Young Sheldon is because I feel like as much of a comedy show that it is, I feel like there's more of like a dramatic element, and that's something that I relate to. Now, I'm not giving any shade to The Big Bang Theory, and I've said it many a times, I love both of those shows, Young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory. But if you had to really make me choose between one or the other, I really liked Young Sheldon, and I liked, just the story about how the Cooper family came to be, and just like, the growing of all those characters between, Sheldon and Georgie and, and the whole family. It's just amazing. It really is. And little Missy. And, especially with the last season, and then how Big George passed away. That was a huge dramatic situation, a huge scene, and there was a lot that was going on. And I feel like, The Big Bang Theory is more of like a comedy type thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think it had as much as a dramatic element as Young Sheldon did. Both shows are good, but, I pick Young Sheldon, but, if you ask that same question to everybody else, I almost guarantee you that the results are going to be a little bit different. There's going to be some people that love The Big Bang Theory more than Young Sheldon, and that's cool. There's going to be some people that may love Young Sheldon more than The Big Bang Theory, and that's also fine, There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to both of these awesome TV series, TV show series. It's just a matter of preference. Question number 6. Kim, in your previous podcast episode where you were talking about the auditioning process for actors, you mentioned about what to expect when you get there. But I also heard that you can do auditions online via Zoom, and or you can send an email of your audition. Is this true or false? Daniel from Pensacola, Florida. Daniel, that is absolutely true. And you know what? That was my bad because I forgot to mention that on that episode. And I really want to apologize not only to you, but to the rest of the audience that actually, listens to this podcast show, that has liked and subscribed, because that was one piece of information that I totally omitted, and I should have mentioned it, and I just forgot. So I really want to apologize. And yes, that is absolutely true. In an audition, you can either go in person, or you can actually do your auditions online with Zoom, or if they provide an email where you want to email your audition video and your headshot and your resume, you can do that. I would only do that if it was one of those circumstances where you know for a fact that you couldn't make it in person. And that's the last resort. That's the only way that you can just audition. And if that's the case, that's totally fine. But, in the audition process, it's better if you show up in person, because I feel like it genuinely shows them that you really want to be there and you really want to earn that part. Not to say that the Zoom audition and the email audition isn't as good, but nothing is as good as like really being there in person. And that's just my 2 cents on it. And directors and, the executive producers and the casting officers will remember that. They will probably say something in the context of, because that person showed up and they gave us everything that they had, it definitely shows us that, they want to be here and they want to be a part of this project. So, either way, Zoom can happen. Even emailing your audition tape or your audition video and all that stuff can happen too, So that is an option, but I would put that as the last option. Now, question number 7 and the last question of the whole episode. Kim, I've been seeing tall women on social media that has been saying that guys are intimidated about going out with them because of their height. Would you be intimidated by that? Rachel from Toronto, Canada. Oh, she's Canadian, eh? Rachel, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else, but, I love women in general. All shades and all, ages and all, shapes and all that. Now, what I mean by all ages, I mean, that minimally you better be 21. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. That's like, if you're 21, I'm with it. If you're over 21, I'm definitely with it. You know what I mean? If you're under 21, that's a definite hard pass. Can't do it. And I think, honestly, when it comes to tall women, I think tall women are beautiful. I find that to be very attractive for me personally. And I never find it to be an issue. You know what I mean? If a woman is taller than me, I don't judge them for that physical appearance. I just, basically judge them on their character, who they are as a person, and, who they are on the inside. Like, if you're 6'5" or 6'7" or 6'9" or whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. If anything, I can look past that, and I might laugh about it because I would think, man, it's kind of comical that a shorter guy is going out with a taller girl, But if there's somebody that I really like and I'm very into, and they have the same kind of like interests as I do, and we mesh very well, then it works. If they're taller than me, fine. Doesn't bother me. It never has, and it never will. Have I gone out with women that are taller than me? Once, because I'm 5'9", and the girl that I went out with was like 5'11", 6 foot. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, it wasn't like a huge differential situation where, it was like really, really taller than me, but taller nonetheless, and I never had an issue with it. So anybody that, any man for that matter, that has a problem with tall women and don't want to go out with them because of that, height situation, the only thing I can say is, they just don't have the confidence. They have a lot of insecurities, and they're just going to be missing out on a beautiful opportunity to go out with a very beautiful woman. And if they're taller than them, so be it. You know what I mean? But, hey, tall women, send them my way. I love it. If you're 6'9", hey, I'm down for it. The taller the woman, that means the more love you got to give. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We got to call it the day. It has been a great episode and just a great day of creativity and making things happen. Real quick, you can go ahead and find me on Facebook. Just go under the search box and go to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. When you click on enter, you'll most likely find me. Please add me and, follow me and follow what's going on. We also are on 2 social media platforms, in Instagram and on Twitter, now known as X. And you can find me under the handle of TKH PC Experience, all in one word. Once again, that's TKHPC Experience, all in one word, lowercase letters. Follow me and I'll follow you back. We are on a lot of podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music. We are on Amazon Music. We are on YouTube Music, and now we're on Audible, which is an online website powered by Amazon, so that you can actually listen to all of the podcasts and online vocal books. It's a service that you can try for free for about 7 days, and if you want to subscribe, I believe it's $15 a month. Now, do me a solid favor, like and subscribe to all of our podcasting platforms. You know what I mean? Like that podcast, subscribe to it, on every and any or all of the podcasting platforms if you have it all. You know what I mean? That's great. Also, if you have Spotify, please give us a 5-star ranking. If you have Apple Podcasts, please give us a if you have Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star ranking and a positive written review. Because the more times that you do that for both of those podcasting platforms, then most likely they're going to take that podcast, our podcast, throw it to the front of the class, and then it'll get noticed. Then that could be somebody like, Joanna, that would say, hey, I heard this from Amanda about the Kim Hoang podcast experience. Sounds like we need to go ahead and check it out. Yes, you should. Absolutely, you should. And while you're at it, tell your friends, tell your family members, spread it around social media. We got Facebook, we got, Twitter, now known as X. We got the Instagram, we got the TikTok, we got the Snapchat, we got all that stuff. Go ahead and share it on there and let people know, because it's what we call brand awareness. Last but not least, if you want to be a special guest host, if you want to be a special guest, if you have any constructive criticism, or if you have any questions for us on our Q&A forum, please email us, the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience at gmail.com. Whatever the subject is, write it under the subject box, and then in the body of the actual email, write down whatever it is that you want to talk about. Send it out and email that out to me, and I'll just look at it. I'll respond back within a day or two, because I do like that type of communication. I think it's awesome. But that being said, guys, we are out of time. I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate everything that you guys do and for supporting our podcast. I really appreciate it. It's just an amazing situation. Please be safe out there and make the right decisions in life, because it doesn't do us any good if you actually, make the wrong decisions that will cost you, including maybe causing your dismemberment, therefore putting you in a pine box and burying you 6 feet under. We don't want that to happen to you, because we want you to do well in life. We want you to succeed. We want you to be healthy and happy, because you deserve it. You deserve every good thing that happens to you, and a bottle of that Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? Because it's just, you're deserving. And anybody who tells you that you're not deserving of the good things in life, and they think that you're going to fail and that you're not worth a damn, tell them to go ahead and kiss your ass. Tell them that you can kick rocks, and tell them that you can jump in front of a moving truck and get hit, because we don't have time for the negativity, and we don't have time for people to be mean to other people. You know what I mean? Everybody's already hating each other already for some dumb thing or another now these days, and I think it sucks. Instead of talking a lot of shit around, about people behind their backs, or just hating on people, start loving people, man. That's just the way to do it. Start loving people. That's all I gotta say. But that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, and keep the faith and just stay positive and do the things that you're set out to do, and I trust and believe that, if you work hard at it and if you're willing to do what it takes to succeed, it's going to come to you. You just got to have to work hard and you got to believe in yourself. So that being said, for the one time, coming all the way from the Asian Sensation Studios in our beta room located over in the Washington DC Metropolitan Area, this is your boy Kim Hoang saying thank you. I appreciate you. We're going to do it again. And, guys, just let's be good to one another, you know what I mean? It's been real. I'll talk to y'all soon. Deuces, I am out. Peace.